Did you come up in poker watching Andrew Neeme's vlogs? Did you think, I'd like to crush that guy in a pot? That would be amazing.
Sure. Probably people did.
It's possible that was what Yushan was thinking. I have no idea about Yushan's backstory, anything about the man at all. But what I do know is that he enters this massive pot with Andrew Neeme at the lodge. I'm not sure it had to go down the way that it did, Jonathan.
I don't think it had to go down the way that it did, Grant.
So we get the 3-bet pre-flop from Yushan. Perfectly fine. Makes sense. Neeme calls. We see a flop, etc., etc. We get to the turn. Neeme makes his flush. Yushan has the draw to the nuts. Let's talk for a bit about Neeme's sizing on the turn. It's very small, 4,300 into 21K when he makes the flush. What do you think?
So I think he's trying to keep a weak part of Yushan's range around, or a weaker part of Yushan's range around, rather than just folding on what looks like is often a pretty bad card.
Yeah.
Right? When Andrew raises the flop, he has a lot of flush draws and he has a lot of made hands. Those made hands still exist, like sets and maybe two pair, like 6-5. But the flushes all get there now too. So Yushan shouldn't be able to beat very much anymore. But by sizing down like this, in theory anyway, Yushan's going to call with more of his range. There's a problem though.
Yes.
The ace of diamonds is the problem.
And Yushan happens to have the ace of diamonds.
We have to size our bet as if Yushan has the ace of diamonds and how we'd want to play against it.
Right. And we're giving him just a slam dunk easy price to continue in one way or another. And we'd be thrilled if he raised. That's fine. But we're giving him too good of a price to call. He's getting 6-1, which is better than the price that he needs. So that's a problem.
That's a huge problem. And I think it's a real mistake. Andrew he doesn't need to go big here. Like a lot of times in cash games, people now size up to pot or even more than pot. He doesn't need to do anything like that. But I think he does need to make it so Yushan doesn't have a clear price to draw with the ace of diamonds, which he happens to have. You don't know he has that, but still, like that's the thing. Or by the way, it could be any big diamond. It doesn't have to. It could be the queen of diamonds. It's the same thing. If Yushan has two queens in his hand with the queen of diamonds, we don't want to give him a great price to draw. We want to give him a bad price to draw. It doesn't have to be terrible, but it can't be I'm making money by calling here, which is what he's giving Yushan.
Right, and I don't think we're going to lose aces or ace-king by going a little bigger, by going 6,500 or 7K, right? I think Yushan's still going to give us the value with aces or ace-king if we bet that size. Maybe you can start talking about there's a difference with queens and jacks, but they might act the same against 4,300 and 7K too. I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure either. I mean, they may just find folds when the king of diamonds comes. It's a pretty bad card.
Maybe for 4,300 too.
Yeah, maybe.
So
maybe.
I think this is it's not a huge mistake by any means, but it just feels like something notable to point out that like this pricing is a little bit off. It's a little bit too easy for Yushan to continue, which he does.
But let's get to the meat of it now.
Let's get to the cow's head of it.
Because one thing Andrew does do really nicely here on this brick river is he sets up what now Yushan may feel like he has to call with a lot more of his range because he's getting an outrageous price on the river, which Andrew has set up pretty nicely.
He did set up a good price on the river.
Now, he'd be setting that up if he had bet more, too.
Yes, it would have been even better price. Even better price.
That's true.
You're right. So Andrew moves in. There's nothing to talk about there.
Of course
If he's
not.
beat, he's beat. That's unlucky. Too bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare with Yushan's line for Andrew to be beat.
Whatever.
But Yushan, as you see, ends up making the call with this hand, which simply needs to be discussed because I just don't see how this is going to win often enough to justify it.
Well, here's the question we should always ask ourselves on bets on the river, right? What are the value and what are the bluffs, right? That's the first big question. So let's start with value. The problem is because it's only half a pot on the river, Andrew should have a lot of value here, not just like flushes, but maybe the straight, which could be like pocket fours, right?
Maybe any set that he has.
I think any set, probably just moving in once Yushan checks the river again, right? Probably not just checking back, probably.
And the only set he doesn't have is king-king because he had a gut shot all along with the threes. So he's got 12 combos of sets. He's got a similar amount of combos of flushes to that, maybe a little bit less because the ace and king of diamonds from Yushan's perspective are removed. But, there's all the suited connectors between there and maybe some suited gappers as well. And then the straight, which is the 4-4.
That's a lot of value. And the only really obvious bluffs is 7-8 suited. That isn't of diamonds. That's three combos. You might say 8-9 suited is there. That was a gut shot on the flop. Perhaps Andrew decided to raise the flop. Sometimes
pouncing on the sizing, something
maybe
like that.
It's possible. It was a very small flop bet from Yushan.
Maybe 7-9 suited also then.
Yep, and then continuing on the turn when the diamond comes, and now on the river, a desperate move in for half pot. Okay, that's possible, but I don't think Andrew's doing that.
It's
very
all
often.
a little far-fetched compared to the very obvious value, which would seemingly all play it this way.
Yeah. Now, I do think what Yushan is very aware of, though, is he's got the ace of diamonds in his hand. As you mentioned, the king of diamonds is on the board. That cuts down most of Andrew's value range in terms of flushes.
Doesn't
It kills
matter.
most of his flush combos. But if we think he's moving in with all the straights, which aren't that many, but all the sets, which there are a number of, that's a real problem.
And it might even be a problem if we only are giving him flushes. Like there's still maybe it's like we'll be getting a good enough price that it would be okay if he's only moving in for value with flushes.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's kind of an absurd idea that for half pot he's only moving in with flushes.
I agree. You have to think Andrew is nittier than nitty, and I know he has had a conservative reputation, but come on.
Yeah.
He's moving in with a set here. And of course, a set is losing to king, which is part of Yushan's range here.
It is.
But that's okay because I think what you're just targeting very cleanly, if you're Andrew, is pocket aces with the ace of diamonds, ace king with the ace of diamonds, things like that. Right?
Yeah, and any other heroes that Yushan wants to make, which apparently include ace queen with the ace of diamonds.
Apparently, it's just the ace of diamonds out here now.
Yeah, everybody makes mistakes,
Yeah.
and maybe he is an Andrew Neeme guy who's like, I gotta beat Andrew in a pot, and that got him. Who knows?
I mean, look, if he's right, it's going to go viral. He's going to be a little bit of a sensation for a very short period of time in the poker world. He could enjoy that, but was it worth $14,000 to try and make himself that?
Probably
Doesn't look
not.
like it.
Probably not.
Doesn't look like it.